I got kicked out of my house on Christmas Eve by my own mother. She threw my things out onto the frozen driveway while my brother, the golden child, watched from the window, cradling his second mug of spiked eggnog. I remember the way the cold bit through my thin sweater as I scrambled to gather my things. My fingers going numb while my mother stood in the doorway, arms crossed, lips twisted into a grimace. "If you can't be grateful for all we do for you, then maybe you should spend Christmas somewhere else," she spat, slamming the door so hard the wreath rattled. I stumbled to my car, shoving my belongings into the trunk, my breath fogging the air as I fought back tears. The snow was falling harder now, covering the driveway in a fresh layer of icy powder. My brother's face disappeared from the window as I slammed my car door shut, the engine groaning to life with a reluctant shiver. I gripped the steering wheel, staring at the blurry outline of my childhood home through the snow-covered windshield. It looked like a postcard, warm and inviting, but I knew better. I knew the frost behind those walls ran deeper than any winter storm. This wasn't the first time I'd been pushed aside. Growing up, my parents had a habit of reminding me that I was the family's afterthought. My brother Daniel had been the miracle baby born after years of fertility struggles. By the time I came along, I was a happy accident, a footnote in their carefully curated family narrative. While Daniel got the best tutors, the newest gadgets, and a shiny car for his 16th birthday, I got hand-me-downs and lectures about building character. My childhood was a series of missed recitals, forgotten birthdays, and one-sided conversations over dinner. I had spent years swallowing my pride, trying to be the dutiful daughter, the peacemaker, the one who quietly picked up the pieces while Daniel crashed through life like a spoiled wrecking ball. I had covered for him more times than I could count, lying to our parents about his failed classes, his DUI, his spiraling credit card debt. I had even given him part of my college fund when he lost his job, a sacrifice that pushed my own graduation back a year. He promised to pay me back. He never did. So when my mother slammed the door in my face that Christmas Eve, something inside me cracked. I drove to my tiny apartment, the one I could barely afford on my meager salary, and sat on my thrift store couch, the cold from my still damp clothes seeping into my bones. I stared at the blinking lights of my $10 plastic Christmas tree and felt a rage so deep it scared me. I had been the family doormat for too long, the invisible daughter, the reliable backup plan. I opened my laptop, the harsh blue glow cutting through the dimness, and started typing. Emails to my landlord, to my boss, to a few old college friends. I reached out to every connection I had neglected over the years while playing the role of my family's unpaid therapist. It was time to rebuild, to reclaim, to sever the ties that had strangled me for decades. When I finally closed my laptop, the clock read 3:27 a.m. My hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the strange, unfamiliar feeling of hope. I glanced at my phone, the screen still dark and silent. No missed calls, no frantic texts, no half-hearted apologies. They had written me off without a second thought. Fine. If they wanted me out of their lives, I'd make it easy for them. I would disappear so completely they'd have to rewrite their family history. I curled up on my couch, pulling a scratchy blanket over my frozen feet, and let exhaustion drag me into a fitful sleep. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing against the coffee table. A text from my mother. I expected a weak apology, a plea for me to come back, but instead it read, "Daniel is in trouble again. We need you to cover his credit card bill, $5,600. Call me ASAP." I stared at the screen, my vision blurring as the rage from the night before reignited, hotter this time, sharper. They hadn't even asked if I was okay, if I had made it home safely, if I had frozen to death in my car like a forgotten pet. Just another demand, another expectation that I would drop everything to fix Daniel's latest disaster. I deleted the message. Then I blocked her number. Sometimes the cleanest break is the one you make with a blunt blade. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was done being their backup plan. As the snow outside my window turned the world white, I made a promise to myself. This would be the last Christmas I ever spent feeling like an outsider in my own family. Let them have their golden child. I'd build my own life, and this time I'd make sure they had no part in it. The days that followed felt like a strange, heavy fog. I went to work, ate microwave dinners, and tried to ignore the crushing silence of my phone. No calls, no texts, not even a half-hearted guilt trip from my mother. It was like they had erased me, like I had been cut from the family photo without a second thought. I took a long, hard look at my apartment. It was small, cramped even, but it was mine. I had a few thrift store pieces, a wobbly kitchen table, and a couch that had seen better days, but at least every corner was free from the shadow of my brother's chaos. I found myself scrubbing the counters, rearranging the shelves, trying to reclaim every inch as if marking my territory. This was my space, and for the first time I felt a flicker of pride. Work became my escape. I threw myself into every project, volunteered for overtime, and even signed up for a few training sessions that I had always put off because of my family's constant demands. My boss noticed, tossing me a surprised glance one afternoon as I tackled a particularly grueling spreadsheet. "You've been on fire lately," she said, leaning against the doorway to my tiny cubicle. "Keep this up and you might have a shot at that promotion next quarter." I managed a tight smile, swallowing the bitter taste of my own desperation. A promotion, more money, more stability, the kind of things I had put on hold for years while my brother drained our parents dry and I played the supportive, responsible daughter. I started taking the long way home from work, letting the cold winter air numb my face as I walked through the busy downtown streets. I stopped at coffee shops I had always passed by but never entered. I tried new dishes at small, tucked-away restaurants that served more than just the comfort food my mother insisted on. I even signed up for a yoga class, my stiff muscles protesting the first few sessions, but slowly easing as I pushed through the pain. But the silence from my family still gnawed at me, an old, familiar wound that refused to heal. I told myself it was a good thing that their absence was a gift, but some nights, as I curled up on my lumpy couch with a cup of cheap wine, the doubts crept in. Maybe I had overreacted. Maybe I should have tried harder to fit into their twisted family dynamic. Maybe I was the problem. Then one Saturday morning, as I sipped my too-bitter coffee and flipped through a stack of unopened mail, I found it. A thin, crisp envelope with my mother's neat, slanted handwriting on the front. My stomach dropped. I tore it open, the paper slicing my thumb in the process. The small, bright pain was a cruel preview of what was inside. "Dear Emily, I hope you're doing well. We haven't heard from you, and your father is getting worried. I know things got heated on Christmas Eve, but you need to understand that family comes first. We all make sacrifices for each other, and I worry that you've forgotten that in your little independence phase. Daniel has been struggling again. He needs your support, and it's selfish of you to abandon him now when he's at his lowest. I hope you can find it in your heart to come home for dinner this Sunday. We need to talk about how you can help get Daniel back on his feet. After all, that's what family does. Love, Mom." I crumpled the letter in my fist, my hand shaking. My little independence phase. Like I was a rebellious teenager who had stormed out over a curfew, not a grown woman who had been thrown out into the snow like yesterday's garbage. I dropped the letter into the trash and poured another cup of coffee, the bitter steam filling my tiny kitchen. She wanted me back, not because she missed me, but because my brother's life was falling apart again and they needed their reliable backup plan. They had discarded me when I became inconvenient, but now that the golden child was floundering, they were ready to drag me back into their twisted orbit. I took a deep breath, letting the anger simmer just below the surface where it warmed me better than any cup of coffee ever could. They hadn't changed. They never would. They would keep taking and taking until I had nothing left, and then they'd blame me for not being strong enough to carry the weight of their dysfunction. No, not this time. I wouldn't let them drag me back into the darkness I had fought so hard to escape. I grabbed my phone, unblocked my mother's number, and typed out a single, measured response. "Thanks for the invitation, but I won't be coming. I'm focusing on my own life now. I suggest you and Daniel do the same." I hit send, my heart hammering in my chest as the message delivered. I could practically feel the shock radiating through the phone, the disbelief as my mother read my words. I half expected her to call, to scream at me for my audacity, but the silence stretched on thick and oppressive. Fine, let them stew in it. let them wonder why their backup plan was suddenly shockingly unavailable. I picked up my cold cup of coffee, took a long bitter sip, and turned my attention back to the pile of bills on my kitchen table. I had my own life to manage, my own future to secure, and I was done letting them drag me down. As the morning sun cut through the fog outside my window, I felt something shift inside me, a small but powerful crack in the wall of self-doubt I had spent a lifetime building. I wasn't their safety net anymore. I wasn't their afterthought, their second choice, their emotional punching bag. I was free, and I was just getting started. 3 months after that cold, silent morning in my cramped apartment, I found myself staring at my phone, my thumb hovering over a notification from my mother. It was a family group chat message, something I hadn't seen in years. I hesitated, the old anxiety creeping up my spine, but I tapped it open anyway. Mom. Family dinner this Sunday. It's been too long. We all need to reconnect. Daniel has news. News. That was code for damage control. My brother's life had always been a series of poorly hidden disasters, from bounced checks to bar fights, and I had no doubt this would be another attempt to rope me back in as the family fixer. I let the message sit unread for hours, the tiny notification dot burning like a pinprick in my mind as I tried to focus on my work. I was in the middle of drafting a quarterly report when my phone buzzed again. This time, it was my cousin Katie. We hadn't spoken in years, not since she moved across the country for college and I stayed behind too broke to follow my own dreams. Katie. Hey, just a heads up, I'm coming home this weekend for the dinner. We should catch up before then. I have some things you need to know. I frowned, my fingers freezing over my keyboard. Katie had never been one to get involved in family drama, her quiet, reserved nature making her the Switzerland of our chaotic clan. For her to reach out like this meant something big was brewing. We met at a small coffee shop near my office later that week, the kind of place where the baristas wore beanies year-round, and the music was always a little too loud. Katie spotted me first, waving from a corner table, her face pale and her fingers nervously shredding a napkin. Hey, I said, slipping into the chair across from her. What's going on? She leaned in, her eyes darting around as if expecting one of our aunts to pop out from behind the counter with a disapproving glare. I didn't want to do this over the phone, she whispered. It's about Daniel and your parents. My heart skipped a beat. Of course it was. What is it this time? I forced a smile, trying to keep my tone light, but my stomach churned. Katie hesitated, her hands trembling slightly as she reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She slid it across the table, her eyes locked on mine. You need to see this. I unfolded the paper, my eyes scanning the neatly printed text, my pulse quickening as the words sank in. It was a copy of a bank statement, my parents' names at the top, and a series of transfers totaling over $30,000 to an account in my brother's name. They've been draining their savings for him, Katie said, her voice tight. Mortgage payments, retirement funds, even their emergency savings. They're in serious debt, Emily. I overheard my mom talking to Aunt Carol about it last week. She said your parents are planning to sell the house. They're hoping you'll cover the shortfall. I felt the blood drain from my face, my hands going numb. This wasn't just a financial mess, it was a betrayal. They had thrown me out, cut me off, and now they expected me to bail them out again like a reliable insurance policy they could cash in whenever Daniel screwed up. And it gets worse, Katie continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. I heard them talking about your college fund, the one they said ran dry when you were a sophomore. They didn't use it to pay for your tuition, Emily. They used it to bail Daniel out of his gambling debt. The room felt like it was spinning. My chest tightened, my breath coming in short, sharp bursts. I clutched the edge of the table, my mind racing as memories flashed through my mind, the sleepless nights, the double shifts, the constant gnawing worry about my mounting student loans. They lied to me. I whispered the words, tasting bitter on my tongue. They took my future and handed it to him. Katie reached across the table, her hand covering mine, her grip surprisingly strong. You need to do something, Emily. They're going to drag you down with them if you let them. I swallowed hard, my vision blurring as the edges of the coffee shop faded into a dull gray haze. This wasn't just about money. It was about years of manipulation, of being the backup plan, the disposable daughter, the family's silent safety net. I'm not going to let them ruin me, I said, my voice low and trembling. Not this time. Katie squeezed my hand, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Good, I'm with you. Whatever you need. I forced a shaky smile, my heart still hammering in my chest. Thank you. As I walked back to my car that night, the cold winter air biting at my cheeks, I felt something harden inside me, a resolve I hadn't known I possessed. They had taken so much from me, chipped away at my dreams and my dignity for years, but this was the final straw. I had always been their afterthought, their emotional crutch, their silent scapegoat, but not anymore. I was done being their sacrificial lamb, their disposable daughter. I climbed into my car, my breath fogging the windshield as I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I had a lot to think about, a lot to plan, but one thing was clear. I was going to make them pay for every lie, every betrayal, every stolen dollar. And this time, I wouldn't stop until the scales were balanced. The day of the family dinner arrived, but I had no intention of playing along with their delusions anymore. I hadn't responded to my mother's message or the follow-up texts from my father, each one dripping with guilt and thinly veiled manipulation. Instead, I spent the morning combing through my old files, piecing together the financial puzzle Katie had revealed. My heart pounded as I pulled up my old banking records, matching dates and dollar amounts, the truth hitting me like a slap every time another piece clicked into place. They hadn't just borrowed my college fund for Daniel's gambling debts, they had siphoned it dry, leaving me to scramble for scholarships and loans, while my brother racked up debts I hadn't even known existed. The anger that simmered in my veins felt different this time. It wasn't the hot, irrational rage of my teenage years, the kind that burned bright and fast before fizzling out into guilt. This was colder, sharper, a blade forged from years of betrayal and sharpened by a newfound resolve. I wasn't just going to cut them off, I was going to sever every last tie, expose every hidden debt, and finally free myself from the chains they had wrapped around me since childhood. First, I called my bank and changed every password, set up new accounts, and locked down my credit. I wouldn't let them ruin my future the way they had ruined my past. Then I reached out to a lawyer, a friend of a friend, someone I knew I could trust to discuss my options. He listened quietly as I laid out my story, his occasional hums of disbelief, the only sounds over the crackling phone line. Emily, he said, when I finally paused to take a breath. You have a solid case here. Financial exploitation, unauthorized use of funds, potential fraud. If you want to go after them legally, I'll back you. I closed my eyes, letting his words sink in my heart, hammering in my chest. I had always thought of myself as the quiet, forgiving one, the daughter who kept the peace at her own expense. But as I sat there gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles ached, I realized I was done being their doormat, their silent victim. Do it, I whispered, my voice shaking with the force of my resolve. Whatever it takes. I hung up my hands, trembling as I set my phone down, the weight of my decision settling over me like a cold, heavy blanket. I had just declared war on my own family, the people who had raised me, manipulated me, and discarded me when I became inconvenient. But I felt no regret, no second thoughts, just a fierce, burning need for justice. Over the next few days, I gathered every piece of evidence I could find. Old emails, forgotten text messages, financial records I had saved out of habit but never thought I'd need. I printed everything, the pages stacking up on my tiny kitchen table like the physical manifestation of my rage. Then I took it a step further. I started reaching out to old family friends, the ones my parents had carefully kept me away from over the years, spinning their version of events while I silently picked up the pieces. I told them the truth, laid out every betrayal, every lie, every stolen dollar. I didn't ask for sympathy or support. I just wanted the truth to be known, to shatter the carefully crafted illusion of our perfect family. The responses were immediate, and as I read through the shocked, angry replies, I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. My parents had spent years building their reputation on my silence, and I was about to burn it all to the ground. When Sunday evening finally rolled around, I sat on my couch, my phone buzzing with missed calls and frantic texts. I ignored them, my heart steady, my mind clear for the first time in years. Then the doorbell rang. I froze, my heart lurching into my throat as the chimes echoed through my tiny apartment. I hadn't expected them to show up, not after the silence I had given them in return for their endless demands. Slowly, I stood and crossed the room, my fingers trembling as I reached for the doorknob. I opened the door to find my mother standing on the other side, her face pale, her eyes wide and rimmed with red. My father hovered behind her, his jaw clenched, his eyes dark with a mixture of anger and shame. "We need to talk," my mother said, her voice small, cracking at the edges like the fragile porcelain she had always valued more than her daughter. I leaned against the doorframe, my eyes cold, my lips curling into a tight, bitter smile. "I have nothing to say to you," I replied, my voice steady, my heart steady, my resolve unbreakable. "But if you have anything to say to me, I suggest you say it through my lawyer." I closed the door in their stunned, tear-streaked faces, the lock clicking into place with a finality that sent a chill down my spine. For the first time in my life, I had shut them out. For the first time, I had taken back my power, my voice, my future, and it felt like freedom. 3 weeks after slamming the door in my parents' faces, I sat in my lawyer's office flipping through the thick stack of paperwork that represented the final messy unraveling of my family's web of lies. The financial investigation had been swift and brutal. My parents' house was in foreclosure, their retirement accounts drained, and my brother's mounting debts had spiraled into a full-blown crisis. It was the perfect storm, and I had simply let it happen. "Are you sure you want to proceed with this?" my lawyer James asked, sliding a final document across the polished oak desk. His eyes met mine, a flicker of concern crossing his usually stoic face. "Once you sign this, there's no going back. You'll be cutting them off completely." I took a deep breath, my fingers brushing the edge of the paper as I remembered every bitter sleepless night, every sacrifice, every twisted manipulation. I had given them years of my life, my savings, my peace of mind. They had stolen my future, erased my dreams, and discarded me like a broken toy when I became inconvenient. I picked up the pen and signed my name with a flourish, the ink gliding across the page like a blade through flesh. When I set the pen down, my hands felt light, my shoulders unburdened for the first time in years. "Send it," I said, my voice steady, my heart racing. "Let them figure it out." James nodded, slipping the papers into a thick envelope and sealing it with a firm press. "I'll file this today. They'll receive the official notice by the end of the week." As I left his office, stepping into the crisp winter air, I felt a strange, bittersweet calm settle over me. I had just severed the last tie to the family that had shaped me, broken me, and nearly destroyed me. There would be no more late-night calls for bail money, no more guilt-laden texts, no more frantic, panicked pleas for help. I spent the next few days in a kind of daze, my apartment filled with the echo of my own thoughts, the weight of my decisions pressing down on me like the first heavy snowfall of the season. I half expected my phone to explode with calls and messages for my parents to show up on my doorstep demanding an explanation, but the silence stretched on, thick and unbroken. Then one evening, just as the last streaks of winter sunlight dipped below the horizon, my phone buzzed. I glanced down, my heart skipping a beat at the familiar name flashing on the screen. "Katie." "Hey," I said, my voice cracking with a mixture of relief and apprehension. "What's up?" "I thought you should know," she said, her voice tight, tinged with a strange mix of guilt and satisfaction. "Daniel got arrested last night. Fraud theft, something about unpaid loans and bounced checks. It's all over the family group chat." I sank onto my couch, my legs suddenly too weak to hold me, my mind struggling to process her words. I had cut myself off from the family, severed every connection, but I hadn't expected the fallout to hit this hard, this fast. "What about my parents?" I managed to choke out, my heart pounding in my chest. Katie hesitated, her breath crackling through the phone like static. "They're a mess. The house is gone, their accounts are frozen, and they're scrambling to cover their tracks. I think they finally realized what they've lost." I closed my eyes, a strange, hollow ache settling in my chest. I had wanted this, hadn't I? I had dreamed of the day they would face the consequences of their lies, their betrayal, their endless self-serving manipulation. But now that it was here, it felt less like a victory and more like the quiet, crushing weight of grief. "Thanks for telling me," I whispered, my voice thin, almost unrecognizable. "I appreciate it." "I'm proud of you, Emily," Katie said, her voice soft, sincere. "You did what you had to do. You chose yourself." I hung up my phone, slipping from my grasp as I stared at the blank wall in front of me, the silence pressing in like a living thing. I had won. I had broken free. I had reclaimed my life, my future, my identity. But as I sat there alone in my tiny, cluttered apartment, I realized something I hadn't been prepared for. Freedom came at a cost. I stood crossing the room to the small, crooked bookshelf in the corner, my fingers tracing the spines of the old, battered paperbacks I had clung to during my darkest years. I pulled one free, flipping it open to the first page, the familiar crack of the spine echoing through the empty room. Sometimes the only way to truly find yourself is to lose everything that held you back. I whispered the words, a bitter, poignant comfort, as I sank back onto the couch, the book heavy in my lap. I had lost my family, my past, my illusions of what we could have been. But I had found something far more valuable in the ashes of my old life. Myself. Story 2. My position in the family hierarchy has always been clear to me. Somewhere between my mother's assortment of ornamental plates and the houseplants. My sister Daphne, who was now ruling at our weekly family breakfast, was solidly in the running for the golden child title. She waved her left hand to capture her ridiculously huge diamond in the morning light. My mother phoned 6 times before I consented to attend, and I'm Summer, the sister who wasn't supposed to be there that morning, but Daphne persisted. It's flawless. Cradling Daphne's hand across the table, my mother cooed. Tyson's taste is superb. Wondering if anybody would notice if I snuck away, I poked at my Benedict eggs. Sunday brunches filled the restaurant's terrace, but Daphne was the star of our table, which might have easily been its own stage. "You're being so silent, Summer." Daphne turned her brilliant smile in my direction and stated that. "Do you not want to be a part of my special day?" I forced a grin and managed to be thrilled. "Once more, congratulations." In fact, Daphne had that too familiar expression in her eyes. The one that implied she was about to make a request while pretending she was helping me. The wedding stationery has been on my mind. Do you still engage in your small passion of design? I saw my jaw getting tense. After 6 years of art school and 3 years of starting my own freelancing business, they still considered my profession to be a small pastime. I own a studio for graphic design. Silently, I made the correction. Yes, I make wedding candies. Excellent. Daphne gave a hand clap. All of my stationery may be done by you. They keep track of everything, including programs, invites, and dates. It will serve as your wedding present to us. My dad raised his head from his cup of coffee. Daphne, that's a lot of effort. Oh, please. My mom dismissed him with a wave. Summer has time. She doesn't seem to be concerned about a relationship or a legitimate work. The words were sharp and piercing like little arrows. I put down my fork. The appetite is gone. My prices begin at rates. Daphne chuckled. It sounded like glass shattering. Avoid being absurd. Your sister is me. It's the least you could do anyhow. Being unmarried and all that. My ideal wedding is yours to experience vicariously. I glanced around my father's table. Daphne's victorious smile, my mother's waiting gaze, and the now attractive coffee cup. My memory went back to years of such instances. Daphne's rise eclipsed my acceptance letter to art school. My first significant customer. Neglected because to Daphne's new boyfriend. Every accomplishment is downplayed. All achievements are disregarded. Naturally, I heard myself remark in a firm voice, I'd be thrilled to see. My mom smiled. Summer is a skilled support system. Daphne started her letterpress business producing personalized monograms with gold foil. Something dark and resolute unfolded in my chest as I nodded at the proper times. Next month, the save the dates must be sent out. I'll email you my Pinterest board, Daphne said. Everything must be flawless. In this metropolis, the Olivers are essentially royalty. I will not disappoint you. I said I would. I meant every word for once. The remainder of breakfast was a haze of mimosas and wedding chatter. We got up to go. Daphne drew me into an olfactory embrace. I'm grateful, little sister. I was certain that you would do this one task correctly. As they left, I saw my parents standing proudly on either side of Daphne, her ring gleaming in the sunlight, and her high-end shoes clicking on the sidewalk, for the final time. After that, I took a car back to my little bright studio apartment where my drafting table was waiting by the window. I opened my laptop and took out my sketch pad. A message from Colin, my best buddy, appeared as a notice. How did the torture session with the family go? As usual. I returned the type. Daphne has gotten engaged. You know who is creating her wedding attire. Tell me about your triple charge. Better, I said, opening a blank document with a smile on my face. I'm working for nothing. Are you doing this for free? What have you done with Summer, and who are you? I didn't answer right away. Rather, I began to draw every stroke with accuracy and intention. They would receive publicity if they so desired. I would give them ideal if that's what they desired. Furthermore, they were unaware of my true feelings if they asked me to give this endeavor my best. Believe me. At last, I replied to Colin in writing. This one will be well worth the investment. I'm not making any charges. That morning, my phone buzzed for the 20th time. Daphne's texts came in quick succession. More delicacy is required in the scroll work. Is it possible to add more gold to the gold? It appears to be a cheap typeface. Do you even hear what I have to say? After putting down my coffee, I resumed typing and worked on edits. Right now. In actuality, I had already completed 3 flawless iterations of the save the dates, but Daphne wanted to feel in charge, so I had been giving her purposefully incorrect drawings and allowing her make the necessary corrections until we reached the final form that I had always intended. My phone rang. Tell me, Colin, that you're not really working on Sundays. When I picked up, he said, simply giving my sister a sense of importance. I put the speaker on and kept drawing. How is the gallery being set up? Actually, that's the reason I'm phoning. I need you to visit the location. You've got a better eye for a loud voice coming from the corridor, and the lighting is strange. Interrupt our talk. I knew right away. Tyson, Daphne's fiancé. He must have been at the next-door architecture company. Yes, I am aware. As he passed my studio door, he was talking, his voice becoming more distinct. Daphne is becoming really dramatic about the wedding. No, sweetheart. Do not be concerned. I'll take care of her. I went cold. He was alone without Daphne. Her yoga class was in session. She texted me a selfie an hour ago so I would know. Colin, I'll give you a call back. I ended the conversation in a whisper and moved quietly. I put my ear on the door. V. Tyson went on, his voice lowering. Miss you too. It was last night. Yes, soon we'll do it once more. On Thursday, Daphne has a wedding planning event. Come on over. I put my hand to my lips. V stands for Valerie, Daphne's maid of honor and dearest friend. I picked up my laptop after waiting for his footsteps to stop. My fingertips skimmed the keyboard looking through Instagram. It was there. Valerie's most recent public post was still viewable even after her profile was recently turned private. Summer nights and secret delights is the caption for a sunset shot. A night was indicated by the timestamp. Tyson was working late, so Daphne called me in tears. My design work was forgotten as I sat in my workspace in the encroaching darkness. Telling Daphne would be the appropriate thing to do, but I was well aware of how it would turn out. She had accused me of attempting to spoil her happiness out of envy. I was making stuff up to get attention, according to my mother. Once more, my phone buzzed. The save the dates must be sent out the following week, Daphne. Everyone has to know the date in advance for the engagement celebration that the Olivers are hosting for us. Don't make a mistake. I gazed at my doodles after reading her letter. A QR code that is small enough to appear attractive yet clear enough to scan, might be easily concealed by the tasteful borders I created, as well as after scanning. At my door was Summer Colin. "Are you all right? You didn't return my call?" I opened the door for him, displaying Tyson's call to him, the post from Valerie, everything. He scrolled through my phone and said, "Holy shit. Will you let her know no? I launched my design program. I'll display the summer to everyone." There was a caution in his voice. "Consider what you are doing. It has been on my mind for 29 years. I've given it some thought, regarding her foolish little pastime and becoming the family's disappointment." I swiveled my screen in his direction. "Do you want to assist me in creating a private picture album?" He remarked. "This is crazy," but he had already pulled up a chair. "You know, once you do this, there's no turning back." In order to make the QR code fit in with the design, I started working on it, returning to what becoming the doormat for everyone. "You're right. He briefly saw me at work, but perhaps we need to put it to rest." No, I continued to stabilize my hand design. "Next week, the save the dates will be sent out. Remember, everything must be flawless." Colin stayed up late to assist me with setting up the private album and testing the QR code. The studio was dark, but for the illumination from my screens when he eventually departed. I saw a final message from Daphne on my phone. "I recently seen your most recent design. Much better. Take a look at what occurs when you pay attention to me. Perhaps there is yet hope for you." I grinned at the complex pattern on my screen, which would eventually reveal all of the lies. "Regards, sis." I returned the type. "I'm giving it my all on this one. And I just wasn't who she believed me to be." Within 7 days, I emailed the finished design to my printer after saving it. Minneapolis would get 300 save the dates, his best. There are 300 opportunities for the truth to surface. Now let's start the countdown. The fragrance of costly paper and fresh ink filled the print shop. As I saw the first save the date come off the press, I noticed that every little detail, even the almost undetectable QR code weaved into the border flourishes, was perfectly reflected by the gold foil. "These are beautiful," holding one up, the printer said. "We're busy throughout wedding season. However, its design is unique." Unique? If only he were aware. It buzzed on my phone. "Once more, Daphne. Tell me they're ready, please. Tonight is the engagement party." I said, "Just taking them up now. They fulfill all of your desires." Every save the date, I meticulously packed the boxes, tucked up in envelopes of ivory hue. 300 little explosives are just ready to go off. Colin assisted me in sorting them by zip code back at my studio. He sealed another envelope and stated, "This is your last chance to back out. Take a look at this." I held up my phone to him. Daphne had just shared something on her Instagram. "I'm very grateful that my gifted younger sister is in charge of our wedding stationery. The simplest tasks can occasionally be the most enjoyable. Organizing a wedding, the entire family first." Colin flinched. "All right, this is something she deserves." My phone rang. "Valerie." I let the voicemail go. Lately, she had been phoning more, most likely wondering why I had consented to perform all of this labor for nothing. She would learn soon enough. "In 1 hour, the post office will close." I was reminded by Colin. At the post office, we packed the boxes into my car. Despite raising an eyebrow at the volume, the clerk got to work processing them quickly. It seemed like a heartbeat every time she stamped. "Everything is finished," she declared. "Tomorrow morning, they will leave first thing." After driving Colin home, I went back to my studio. Daphne had texted once more saying she was coming over to get some for tonight's party. Deliveries must be made by hand to the Olivers. 20 minutes later, she exploded with entitlement and luxury perfume. "They're where I require a minimum of 30. I gave a stack of envelopes to her. She held them up to the light and began examining them right away. She stated the foil job was great. The typeface may have been more beautiful, but it still seems like she was assessing a kid's artwork. Tyson's mother's taste is quite sophisticated. She certainly does. The images of Tyson and Valerie in different precarious poses in the secret album sprang to mind. The hotel receipts are exchanged by SMS. Oh, when Daphne saw her phone, her countenance brightened. Valerie arrived at the party location just now. She has been incredibly supportive during all of this preparation. She gave me a glance. That is the hallmark of true friendship. Summertime. You ought to give it a try someday. I grinned. Lately, I've been learning a lot about friendship. She didn't hear my tone at all. Try not to be such a recluse then. Seeing you alone yourself all the time is depressing. She made her way to the door. She held precious packets to her chest. I appreciate this. If you can try to attend the celebration, present yourself well. I opened my laptop and took one final look at the album after she departed. In less than 24 hours, everything was prepared. All of those meticulously planned lives would be destroyed when Colin texted me. Are you all right? Never better, I said. Around midnight, I finished Daphne's Save the Dates and worked late into the night to finish up client assignments I had neglected. Pictures from the engagement party began to flood my social media accounts. Tyson and Daphne, picture perfect. Valerie was standing close by sipping champagne while sporting a dress that was more expensive than my rent each month. I was drawn to one picture. In front of a gathering of society women, Tyson's mother displays the Save the Date, highlighting its beautiful details. She may even be able to see the QR code tonight if she peered closely enough. However, she refused. They wouldn't. Not until tomorrow, when a few bored visitors made the decision to look more closely at the complex design. My phone gave me one last buzz. Daphne. They were adored by everybody. Check out what occurs when you put in the effort. Perhaps you will get some actual job as a result of this. I opened my mouth to respond, but stopped. Rather, I made an event for tomorrow by opening my calendar. The city lights outside my window glowed as if they knew the secret. Out there somewhere, there were 300 ticking clocks ready to go off at once and 300 envelopes waiting for dawn in mailboxes. After turning off my computer, I prepared to go to bed. I wanted to get enough sleep for the concert because tomorrow would be a full day. After all, presentation is crucial, as Daphne used to say. At 2:17 p.m., the first call was placed. I disregarded Daphne's name flashing on my phone screen and carried on designing a logo for a customer. Then there were more calls. Colin texted me and my phone buzzed. It's just getting started? I had hardly finished answering when the door to my studio sprang open. Daphne remained still. She was holding her phone like a weapon as mascara was running down her cheeks. What did you do? She let out a scream. What did you do? I spoke in a calm tone. You must be more detailed. Her phone was placed into my face. The QR code. I'm getting calls from everyone, sending me a text. There are images. Summertime. Oh, I returned my attention to my PC. That's intriguing. You dare not pretend to be innocent. She almost caught my fingertips as she slammed my laptop shut. Images of Tyson. Private correspondence. How did you obtain these? I answered softly. I'm good at what I do. Remember my foolish little pastime. Her face turned white instead of crimson. You have this planned, like you stated. All I had to do was put in the effort. My face was stung by the quick smack. I didn't recoil. You're telling lies, she gave a hiss. Those pictures were altered by you. You're envious and are attempting to destroy my life. The buzzing on my phone persisted. Father, mother, unknown figures. Consult Valerie, I recommended. Most of the pictures include her. Daphne's hand began to tremble. Your communications would never be checked by Valerie. I said, she must be attempting to get in touch with you by now. Valerie called, and Daphne's phone lighted up as if on cue. When she answered, she looked at it, then at me, and finally back at her phone. She spoke in a little voice. Val! Through the speaker, I could hear Valerie's terrified voice. I can explain Daphne. It had no significance. I said, Tyson said, you were too busy all the time. Daphne hung up the phone. She slumped into my client chair, her impeccable posture giving way. 300. Remember the dates, I said, getting to my feet. 300 QR codes. To date, how many have been scanned? Why tears were tearing through her makeup as she glanced up. Why would you harm me in this way? To you, I chuckled. You are not the focus of this. The truth is at issue here, regarding the repercussions. As you, Valerie, and Tyson play your little games, I've been treated like nothing for years. Once more, my phone buzzed. Colin texted. The news was recently picked up by a local gossip site. Consider checking out Twitter. The number of alerts on Daphne's phone was overwhelming. She looked over them. Her hands trembled more. Mom is phoning. It's the Olivers. God, please. It's popular. You wanted my efforts to be seen, I reminded her. You seem to have it. She abruptly grabbed her handbag and sprang to her feet. I will refute all of it. You're a lonely, resentful loser, so I'll claim you're insane for making it all up. Proceed. Once more, I opened my laptop. All of the metadata is included. Timestamps, places, receipts from hotels. I do my work with great attention to detail. I hear a fresh voice from the doorway when I truly put myself through it. What on earth is happening? Tyson remained still. His flawless hair was unkempt. He blushed. He glanced at his phone, then at Daphne, then at me. The images. How did you ask Valerie, Daphne? And I said it all at once. He retreated, having already called my father's attorneys. Will, would I cut you off? I'm being sued for revealing the truth. Proceed? I kept everything. Daphne reached out to him, but he turned and ran away. His pricey sneakers pounded down the corridor, and we could hear it. My sister's world was falling apart in real time as she stood in the center of my studio. I briefly spotted the young girl who held my hand on the first day of school and used to share her ice cream with me. She then wiped her tears, straightened her back, and gestured toward me. This family believes that you are dead. Dead. For this family, I've been dead for years, I answered. The only distinction is that everyone now understands why. With such force that my design awards clattered on their shelf, she bounded out. I returned to my computer, opened Twitter, and watched in real time as my sister's idyllic existence fell apart. Locally, wedding scandals were popular. The save the date design had already been turned into a meme. A text message from an unidentified number appeared on my phone. This is your cousin Ainsley. The photographer for the wedding is supposed to be me. I simply wanted to say, oh no, girl, show respect. I kept her number handy. I then accessed my email. They had received 3 new customer queries, all of which had mentioned the creative QR code design work they had seen online. Exposure is crucial at times. The year's biggest wedding controversy. Using a QR code, the designer's sister reveals the infidelity of the husband. My laptop's screen shouted the headline. With a high-resolution snapshot of my save-the-date design and blurry copies of the stolen photographs, the local gossip blog had made it their top story. The doorbell in my studio rang. Colin waved his phone as he hurried in. Did you notice this? You became viral. I've observed. I pointed to my inbox, which was overflowing with messages. The community that plans weddings is especially curious. Summertime. From the door came a soft voice. My father appeared older than I had ever seen him as he stood there. We must speak. Colin gave me a shoulder squeeze. After sneaking away, he added, I'll get us some coffee. In the client chair, my father sat ponderously. It's your mom. Does anyone else think she's handling this well? He massaged his face. You could have handled it more tactfully, couldn't you? As if anybody would have believed me have a private conversation with your sister. I swiveled my screen in his direction. Dad, have a look at the remarks. His pals were all well known. Daphne's circle of friends, they were all aware. Since it was more comfortable to remain silent, they did so, but this exposes it. He made a helpless gesture. The shame. The reality. I made the correction. The messenger was created by myself. Valerie texted me, and my phone buzzed. "You're the reason I've lost everything. I hope all is well with you." I introduced my father to it. It's funny that the ones acting betrayed are the ones who truly done something wrong. He straightened his jacket and got to his feet. "You are no longer welcome at Sunday brunch, and your mother wants you to know that." I wasn't. Colin came back with a paper bag and coffee after he departed. "Brought food. You may require it. Downstairs is a reporter from the City magazine. What they want to write something about creative design in the digital era. They probably just want the specifics of the issue, but publicity is publicity, so whatever." My phone rang once more. It was my cousin Ainsley, the photographer this time. "Hey, I realize this is a strange moment, but my customer thinks your use of the QR code is fantastic. Would you be interested in working together, so you don't mind working with the family, pariah?" She chuckled. "Please. One half of the family has been waiting for someone to mess with Daphne. We simply didn't anticipate it being so creative." We hung up, and I went to Instagram. Given the recent events, which were clearly planned by people who suffer from deep-seated envy and mental instability, Daphne had released a lengthy statement. The remarks were harsh. "Sister, go take the L team designer. Does anyone have the QR code requesting a buddy?" A fresh email from my mom appeared. "I hope you realize the damage you have caused to this family. Your sister is inconsolable. Yesterday, Tyson's mom had to leave their country club early. Was this what you were hoping for, to ruin everyone's life with your small-minded retaliation?" I started to respond, but ended up deleting the manuscript. I launched my design program and started a fresh project. My first commission as a result of the controversy. Looking over my shoulder, Colin looked. "Are you all right? Better than mediocre." I gave him the specifics of the commission. They want a campaign that uses design to uncover hidden facts. It's the ideal irony. Let's talk about perfection. He gave my window a nod. Outside, Tyson's Tesla was approaching. Straightening his tie as if he were going to a business meeting, he exited. "Do you want me to stay?" Colin inquired. "No, I've got this." Without knocking, Tyson went inside. "We must talk about terminology. In fact, we don't. My dad is ready to make an offer." I interjected, "No amount of money will make those photos disappear. Now they're out there. Like you were out there with Valerie. Daphne spent all those evenings organizing your wedding." His hand smashed into my desk. "Everything is damaged by you." "No, that's what you did. I only made things appear lovely." He went as fast as he'd come, almost running into a delivery man with a huge bouquet. From one truth teller to another, the card was read. "Let's discuss Design Weekly, a feature article editor." Another text message from Ainsley appeared on my phone. "Hello," an arbitrary query. "Would it be possible for you to create the invites for my brother's wedding? Scandals are his fiancé's favorite. Additionally, it seems that you are currently the trendy option for social weddings." I genuinely laughed. My computer beeped with another email notice for the first time in days. From a large design studio this time. Perhaps Daphne was correct. The simplest tasks can occasionally be the most fulfilling, especially when done well. Due to personal reasons, the formal cancellation was announced on Daphne's Instagram precisely 1 week after the QR code controversy. Tyson and I have made the decision to put off our wedding for as long as possible. Please be mindful of our privacy at this trying time. Within minutes, the comment section blew up. "Private situations. LOL. You were helped by your sister. Team Summer forever." After shutting off the app, I looked at Colin, who was assisting me with studio packing. "Are you certain about this shift? I was given twice as much space for the same fee in the downtown design hub." As I wrapped my metals carefully, I said, "In addition, they want me to lead a course on creative print design using digital integration. In other words, how may scandalous QR codes be concealed in wedding invitations? The unofficial title is that." My phone rang. "Mom." She immediately phoned back after I left it on voicemail. What I replied, "I'm taking you away from me. There was no preface to her announcement. And selling the art supplies you used as a kid. In any case, I was never truly involved. I answered, and Daphne had given me those supplies. Summer, you've got your point. Your retaliation is over. Are you content now? Seldom does your sister leave her home. I covered another box with tape. Perhaps she ought to have considered the repercussions earlier. What comes first prior to having faith in her sister? Before offering you the opportunity to take part in something unique, prior to 29 years of treating me like trash. She ended the call. There was a text a few seconds later. When you are as alone as you have made your sister, you will regret this. Read that over my shoulder, Colin. You're not by yourself? You are aware. I am aware. I gave him my email address. This week, I have 3 new clients. Tomorrow, I have 2 interviews with magazines. Also, it seems that I'm popular in the design world. Twitter. The entrance to the studio opened. Ainsley entered with a magazine and coffee. This is something you will want to see. On my desk, she laid down the magazine. My Save the Date piece was the subject of a full-page examination in the most recent issue of Modern Design Monthly. Art of Exposure: How One Designer Transformed Wedding Stationery into Social Commentary was the headline. They're referring to you as a visual revolutionary. Ainsley smiled. The ideal fusion of action and artistic expression. Colin said Daphne is going to hate that. According to Ainsley, Daphne is relocating to Chicago. She apparently acquired a position at the Oliver's satellite office after they pulled some strings. She wrote this morning about fresh starts. Another email buzzed across my phone. The Design Hub asked me if I would think about organizing a gallery display that isn't readily apparent. Visual truth's power. Yes, Colin insisted. The wedding suite may be shown with the rest of your work. Take it beyond a simple controversy. Just as I was going to respond, Daphne sent me one last text. Your point has been made. I hope you're content right now. I hope ruining your family was worth it for your valuable job. After giving the message a lengthy look, I wrote it back. It had nothing to do with my career. The truth was at issue. Something you never appreciated. She didn't reply, but she read it right away. Assist me with carrying these boxes. I asked Ainsley and Colin. The lighting in the new studio is better. When we were loading my vehicle, I saw that I was reflected in the glass. Somehow I looked different, perhaps stronger, or simply more of me. Oh, Ainsley almost dropped a package. I nearly forgot. Do you recall that partnership we discussed? The customer would want to meet tomorrow. They are organizing a large-scale social wedding, but they want it to be genuine and innovative. Interpretation. They don't need to provide the drama they desire. Colin chuckled. Perhaps. But at least they're honest about it, I added. As the sun began to drop, we completed packing the car, leaving the parking area covered in lengthy shadows. My former studio suddenly appeared cramped and undersized. I would start afresh tomorrow in a room 3 times this large with my name on the door and windows looking out over the city. It was the last time my phone lighted up. My father's message. Although I saw the magazine story, your mother is furious. Summer, the art is stunning. Even if it wasn't in time. I showed Ainsley and Colin. Advancement. Little steps. I said, Colin said, at least one member of your family has finally recognized the quality of your effort. Art, Ainsley said. Art that is really effective. After locking up the previous studio, we left. The building's security lights came on and illuminated the vacant room where I had meticulously and artistically plotted my sister's demise. There will be new initiatives, problems, and chances to use design to convey the truth in the future. However, I felt nothing but brightness today as I saw my former life fade away in the rearview mirror. Daphne's wedding would have taken place today, rather than observing my sister's wedding. I was working on rebranding concepts for tech firms while seated at my new drawing table. I didn't miss the irony. They desired something genuine and transparent. Instagram buzzed a notice on my phone. It was the first time Daphne had blogged since coming to Chicago. The universe has different ideas sometimes. I'm having a party for fresh beginnings today. Like some warped parody of a wedding celebration, the picture had her surrounded by champagne bottles and new acquaintances all dressed in white. She marked the place a fancy rooftop bar in the heart of the city. "You don't really intend to travel, do you?" Colin read over my shoulder and inquired. "No," I said, returning to my task. "Indeed." I reached for my keys, perhaps in the summer. "I just have one item in my apartment that I need to return." I found it after searching through my jewelry box. On my 16th birthday, when we were still sisters, Daphne gave me a lovely silver bracelet. Not only fictional characters in one another's tales, the pretentiousness of the rooftop bar was just what I had anticipated. Before I saw Daphne, I heard her laugh that socially adept trill she had honed over the years. "God, oh God." As I got closer, I heard a whisper. "Is that right?" Daphne pivoted. Halfway to her lips, her glass of champagne froze. "Why are you here, delivery?" I extended the wristband. While packing up my studio, I came across this. Her face flashed with recognition as she gazed at it. "Up until now, you held on to that old stuff." Her new pals observed our conversation as if it were a game of tennis. One took out her phone, most likely in an attempt to record a dramatic moment for social media. "You know," Daphne murmured, her voice echoing across the roof. "In Chicago, I've been thinking a lot about forgiveness and family. Have you on her table?" I placed the bracelet. "Or have you simply been figuring out how to make this part of your comeback? You have a knack for telling stories." She took the bracelet in her hand. "My life became your miniature work of art." "No, I just created the frame. The artwork was painted by you and Tyson." There was a whisper among her companions. Undoubtedly, someone began to videotape. "Do you want to know what's funny?" For years, Daphne's voice grew softer. "In fact, I felt sorry for you. The poor summer, so gifted yet so unnoticeable. You destroyed me after I gave you the greatest chance of your career." "The chance?" I chuckled. "Do you mean free labor?" "This is your opportunity to tell everyone that your younger sister was only an amateur artist. I did include you at least. How recently have you involved me in anything yesterday?" Silently, I said. I opened my gallery display. Dad and Mom arrived. She was halted by that. What my work was seen by them. Did you actually see it for the first time, perhaps? When Dad understood how long I had been yelling through my creations in quiet, he started crying. My mom. Mom asked if I could show her how to integrate technology. Daphne's flawless disguise slipped just a little. I was never informed. Why would they? All of our numbers were blocked by you. Between her fingers, she twisted the bracelet. I had to make a new beginning. You caused my entire existence to collapse in a single day. No, I corrected her. Your phony existence collapsed. The authentic one. I'm still waiting. Every time you're prepared to live it. Her words halted me as I turned to go. Did any of it happen? The bracelet was when we were children. I turned to face her again. I kept it so long for that reason. That's why I'm sending it back right now. Long before I ever gathered up the pieces you broke. Her pals had stopped talking. Phones continue to record. This will most likely be widely shared on social media tomorrow. The rebirth party is interrupted by the designer sister. I didn't care about the publicity though for once. Summertime. As I arrived at the exit, Daphne called. The layout. It was just lovely. Even the QR code. I answered, I know, and walked out. The summer evening was like a cozy blanket wrapped around me. It buzzed on my phone. An article link had been given by Ainsley. The industry transformation brought about by the wedding design debacle demonstrates how hidden codes are evolving. Contemporary stationery. There was a message underneath. You altered not only your life, but the whole game as well. I left the sound of Daphne's party starting up again without me behind and made my way back to my car. A memento of a romance that ended long before any QR code revealed the truth, The bracelet that had been weighing down my jewelry box for years now rested on her table. Once more, my phone buzzed. An inquiry from a new client, searching for something different, something that conveys the entire narrative, not just the highlights. I grinned and got to work writing a response that at least I understood how to write. The enthusiasm of the opening night filled the gallery. I was surprised to see that my show, hidden in plain sight, had attracted a sizable audience, both of my parents. They were in front of the focal point, a huge print of Daphne's wedding invitation with a QR code that was shining in the gallery lights. My father remarked softly, "It's different seeing it like this. The details are important. I had never looked closely before." My mom lightly touched the frame. "You used your craft to tell us tales for all those years. Simply put, we were unable to read them." Before I could answer, Colin came running over. "You must see this, Summer." He gave his phone to me. Valerie had just sent her an email. "I'm getting married, dear Summer," prior to asking, "Not to Tyson, please. I came into someone who genuinely appreciates integrity. I understand that this is odd, but will you create our invitations? This time, no secret codes are required. It's all out there already, Valerie." "That's surprising," Colin remarked. I returned his phone to him. "So is the entire evening examine your surroundings." The museum was crowded with society wives chatting behind their hands, photographers examining my methods, and design students drawing in notebooks. The waiting list for my new studio was 6 months long. The controversy had taken on a whole other form, a discussion on speaking when words fail and about truth in art, a voice that was recognizable to Summer. Ainsley was holding her camera as I turned around. Would it be okay if I added anything to the exhibit? A picture appeared on her screen. At her rebirth celebration, Daphne held the silver bracelet mask, which eventually broke. "The moment truth catches up," was the caption. "It's flawless." "Printed," I said. It buzzed on my phone. "After seeing your display," Daphne sent an SMS message to the national design bloggers. "I suppose you were never only a hobby artist." I demonstrated improvement to Colin. "Little steps," he concurred. The director of the gallery came over with a flute of champagne. 4 pieces have already been sold. Additionally, someone is present. You ought to speak with a publisher who would want to adapt your tale into a coffee table book on cutting-edge design methods. A book about my daughter's job was overheard by my mother. Her voice had a new pride in it. Delicate, actual. I excused myself and went out onto the balcony of the gallery. Below, the city glistened, brimming with tales to be told. Once more, my phone buzzed. Daphne texted me again. "I'm beginning to see why you did it, but I'm not ready to forgive you yet. The bracelets on my work desk serve as a reminder of who we were and who we may become in the future." I returned several designs by typing. "Spend time honing your skills." The audience had gathered inside around my most recent creation, a set of interconnected frames that traced the development of my work from early designs in which I used attractive flourishes to hide my suffering to the wedding suite that revealed all to my most recent endeavors. Audacious. Sincere. Not scared. It's similar to witnessing someone discover their voice. Someone told me that Colin came out to the balcony with me. The email from Valerie. "Will you carry it out?" "Perhaps." I grinned. "I have another project first, though." I showed him my new design series sketches. Through visual narrative sister stories, examine how families disintegrate and reassemble. The image of Daphne wearing the jewelry I described is the first component. The simplest truth is sometimes the most potent. What is that, too, that we are all only individuals attempting to gain attention? From within. "Summer," my father called. "The publisher is interested in discussing numbers." I glanced at the city lights one last time. Valerie's email, Daphne's text, and scores more messages from others who recognized themselves in my art were all on my phone. What had begun as retaliation had grown into much more. A discussion about being genuine in a world full with well-chosen falsehoods. "Are you ready?" Colin nearly asked. I texted Daphne one last time. Tomorrow the gallery will open late. Come discover our true selves. The show was bustling with activity. My mom was telling others about my methods. My dad grinned at everybody who would pay attention. In some way, the QR code that had destroyed one life had created another, where the truth was not just accepted but honored. Through the gallery doors, I retreated into the illumination of my own creation. What happened next? The wedding of Valerie. The potential reconciliation of Daphne. Absolute honesty would be the cornerstone of my growing profession. That's what excellent design is all about after all. Demonstrating to individuals what they must see regardless of their readiness. The rest is merely specifics.